Okay, here's another example, just covering the material from the first lecture today. And it's a little bit more complex than the time conversion example, which is the previous video, because it's using units that may not be familiar. So here's the question. It says, a grai is an Old English measure for length, defined as 1/10 of a line, where line is another measure for length, defined as 1/12 of an inch. So in publishing, a point is 1/72 of an inch. And what is an area, so bear in mind that we were working with areas and lengths here, of half a grai squared in points squared. So from my experience, students tend to get confused in questions like this because of the conversion between length and area, and this can be a common place where the conversion of units kind of goes wrong. But we're going to use the principle, the key concept that we covered in the lecture, and which is in the key concept video as well, to make this straightforward. So let's just write down the relationships so that we have them all at our disposal. So we have that 1 grai is equal to 1/10 of a line. That's the first one. We have that 1 line is equal to 1/12 of an inch. And we have that 1 point is equal to 1/72 of an inch. Okay, and then we're asked to convert this 0.5 grai squared to points. So again, we're going to use the same principle that we have used all along, which is that we're always allowed to multiply things by 1. And each of these relationships that we've written down here defines a way of kind of establishing an identity, i.e. a definition of the number 1. Okay, so let's see how we do this then. So let's start off with our 0.5 grai squared, which is the thing we're trying to convert. So 0.5 grai squared. Well, this is the same thing as writing 0.5 grai times grai. Okay, and it's just, that's what grai squared means. It's just we're multiplying those two things out. So we can write this, we're going to multiply this by 1. So we're doing 0.5 grai. And one of the definitions of the number 1, which we can use from here, is 1/10 of a line divided by 1 grai. So if we just divide both sides by 1 grai in that relationship, we get the number 1. So let's do that. So we're going to multiply by 1/10 of a line over 1 grai. And because we have 2 grais that we're trying to cancel here and here, we'll multiply by that by 1 again. So 1/10 of a line over 1 grai. Okay, and when we do that, we'll get some cancellation in the units here. So the grais here and here cancel with the grais there and there. And if we now multiply the numbers together, we end up as follows. It'll be 0.5 times 1/10 times 1/10 lines squared. And so we can write that as 0.5 over 100 lines squared, which is just 0.005 lines squared. Okay, so we've converted from grai squared to line squared. And again, we can write everything out by multiplying by 1. So what are lines in terms of inches? Well, we have again here another relationship between 2 quantities, which we can convert into a definition of the number 1. So if we again divide both sides of this relationship by 1 line, then we get a definition of the number 1. So we'll take our 0.005 line squared. So that's the same thing as line times line. And we're going to multiply that by our number 1. So that's 1/12 of an inch over 1 line. And again, we'll multiply by 1 again. So 1/12 of an inch over 1 line. And again, we'll get cancellation here. So lines here cancel there. And we'll get then as our final expression on this page, 0.005 times 1/12 times 1/12 inches squared. Okay, so I'm now going to switch to using kind of standard representation of numbers because it just becomes a bit easier instead of multiplying out these long decimals. So when I do this multiplication, you can just type it into your calculator if you want. The number you get should look something like this. So this whole thing is equal to 0.347 times 10 to the minus 4. And all that really means, so just if you haven't seen this kind of notation before, I'll sketch it out and I'll erase it in a second, but it basically means that we have 4 zeros, 347. That's what the times 10 to the minus 4 means there, okay? Hopefully you've seen that notation before. But in any case, it's that. And our units are inches squared, like that. And we're almost done. So remember, what we're trying to do is convert into points squared. So we now need a relationship between inches and points. And if we go back up to, again, our relationships here, we have that 1 point is 1/72 of an inch. Another way of writing that is that 72 points is equal to 1 inch. And then again, we can just divide both sides here by 1 inch, and we'll get another definition of our number 1, and we can always multiply things by 1. So we'll take this 0.347 times 10 to the minus 4 inches squared, which is the same thing as inch times inch, and we'll multiply by 1. So here's our 72 points over 1 inch. That's 1. And then again, 72 points over inch. That's another definition of the number 1. And again, we get cancellation here. So the inches there cancel with the inches on the bottom line. And our final expression then, so we'll get 0.347 times 10 to the minus 4 times 72 times 72 points squared. Okay. And when we actually do the multiplication here, so again, you can just stick these numbers into your calculator. And what we end up with, I'm just rounding this off to 2 decimal places, we get 0.18 points squared. So the actual numbers here, you're all pretty good at working with numbers, I would imagine. That's why you're doing a maths degree. But the new thing here is just being able to convert between units. And again, all we've done here is to multiply all of our expressions by 1. So this whole expression from our starting point here, 0.5 gri squared equals, all the way to the end here, everything we've written down, it's all equal to 0.5 gri squared. And so our final conclusion then is that 0.5 gri squared is the same thing as 0.18 points squared. And that's the answer to the problem.